So a thing that we've talked about once or twice on this channel, the online safety bill, crackdown on harmful social media content, agreed. Now, this is something that nobody wanted. Absolutely nobody wanted this because it means that social media companies are going to be absolutely draconian in their moderation now. I mean, if you thought it was bad before, this bill was going to make it 100 times worse because social media companies can now be held liable for content that appears on their platform. So basically, this is I mean, it's a good experiment. A lot of people are still in the camp of get rid of Section 230. Section 230 in the United States is when social media and social media platforms cannot be held criminally responsible for what other people post on their platform. But they're basically protected from it. So if somebody posts a death threat, only the guy that posted the death threat gets charged. The social media company won't get any type of criminal or civil suit backlash from it because they're protected under Section 230. However, the online safety bill totally takes that protection away from social media companies that want to operate in the United Kingdom. Peers have passed a controversial new law aimed at making social media firms more responsible for user safety on their platforms. The online safety bill has taken years to agree and will force firms to remove illegal content and protect children from some legal but harmful material. Basically, if there is a law to strip this type of content away, then it's not legal, you've made it illegal. Welcome to how laws work. I'm amazed I need to explain to lawmakers how fucking laws work. The children's charity, the NSPCC, said that the law would mean a safer online world. No, it certainly would not. But critics argued it would allow a regulator and tech firms to dictate what may or not be said online. That's the true purpose. See this part here? That's the purpose that they present to the public. Think of the children. We need to protect the poor children, even though there's many means that right now to protect children from online predators. However, the government seem to not be doing anything about that. It's very strange, isn't it? However, this was the real reason, the actual reason. It allows tech firms to dictate what may or not be said online, where a lot of conversation, especially about politics and stuff like that, takes place. That was the real reason they wanted to control it, because no one gathers in the town square anymore. No workies at the end of the day gather around the bar to talk about politics or talk about the king and country and all that type of stuff. It all takes place online. And like we've said many times, it's obvious whoever controls social media controls the outcome of elections. It's true. That's just a fact, right? And whoever controls that can literally control what type of government we have and the type of things that the government vote on. The government has realised this, and tech firms have realised this, which is why they want to control it. The nearly 300-page bill will also introduce new rules, such as requiring pornography sites to stop children viewing content by checking the ages of users. One thing that I will say before is, see that whole "Are you over 18?" Yes, we've all done it. We've all done it, right? You know, we shouldn't have been doing it, but we all did it. I do think that porn websites definitely need to do more to prevent children from viewing that type of material. I just don't think this is it. While the Act is often spoken about as a tool for reining in big tech, government figures have suggested more than 20,000 small businesses will also have to comply. Platforms will also need to show they are committed to removing illegal content, including child sexual abuse. They don't do that nearly fast enough, by the way. Like, see the amount of times, like, there was like full marketplaces on like Instagram and Twitter and stuff like that. They don't react to that stuff fast enough, even after it gets reported multiple times. Makes you think. Controlling or coercive behaviour, what does that mean? Whatever the prosecutor decides on the day. Extreme sexual violence, which, I mean, I don't want to fucking see that. I mean, if it's like that weird kink fucking consensual shit, then whatever. But I mean, like actual non-consensual stuff, like no, get rid of that. Illegal immigration and people smuggling. I mean, despite the fact that I don't like either of those fucking things, like I don't think it should be made illegal because that's the whole thing about freedom of speech. Like, even if it's something that you don't like, doesn't mean you make it illegal. Promoting or facilitating suicide, promoting self-harm, animal cruelty, selling illegal drugs or weapons, and terrorism. So these are all things that obviously any average person in the street is not going to be in favour of, right? I'm not in favour of any of these things. I don't want to see any of these things, right? However, the online harms bill is not the way to do it. It's not the way to do it. Because basically, what's going to happen is it will maybe to an extent enforce these things. But these things were not the original intention. The original intention was to control the flow of information, to shape people's opinions and basically propagandize the shit out of them so that when it comes to voting time, they vote the way that the government likes. That's the real reason behind this law. I don't want any of these things. You don't want, I hope you don't want any of these things either. It's just that basically these will be sort of half enforced, but the true enforcement is going to come in with political dissidents. New offences have also been included in the bill, including cyber flashing and the sharing of deepfake pornography. Cyber flashing, I'm going to guess, is sending dick pics to people, which means, ladies and gentlemen, I apologise, I will not be able to post my balls on Twitter anymore. I'm sorry. I know you all enjoyed it so much. I mean, some people did, which was weird. That wasn't the intent. The point of me sending you a ball picture is to make you go, fuck off, man. Like, that's the point. But can't do that anymore. Ruining my good time. And the sharing of deepfake pornography, I mean, I can understand why people would find it. I think I can get why people would have a problem with people making that of them, but I'm the type of guy that has so much fucking Rule 34 drawn of him, which I don't mind because to me it's funny. I find it funny. I don't see myself as a sexual object. I'm not sexualized. I'm not. Right? So I think that's why whenever porn gets drawn of me, I just find it funny. But I understand why women and stuff like that would feel differently about it. And the bill includes measures to make it easier for bereaved parents to obtain information about their children from tech firms. That one I absolutely support. That's 100%. Just on moral grounds alone, tech companies should say, here, yeah, you're the bereaved parents, here's your children's data of messages they may had, or memories, or pictures, etc., like that type of thing. Or to find out who they were talking to up until, things happen. Yeah, that I completely support. I think that companies should just be doing that on moral grounds anyway. They shouldn't need a law to dictate that. The Technology Secretary, Michelle Donnellan, told the BBC the bill was extremely comprehensive. Asked when there would be evidence of tech firms changing their behaviour, she said, "We have already started to see that change in behaviour happening," which, I mean, they had to because it's now law. They can basically lose their licence to operate in the UK if they don't comply with that law. And basically the companies that are going to be another beautiful thing about the online harms bill that the government loves very much. Basically, BitChute, Rumble, Twitter /X, they're on the chopping block. They will. They're going to get Kiwi Farms as well, probably. And I mean, probably, definitely, the Kiwi Farms are going to get hit with it as well. These are all the things. So see all these sites that allow the misinformation about the vaccines and all this stuff about illegal immigration. These misinformation sites. They're going to get hit. They're all going to get hit unless they comply with this law. So basically, they probably are going to get told they're not allowed to operate in the UK anymore. Everyone buy a VPN. As soon as the bill gains royal assent, the regulator will be working even more hand in hand with these social media platforms, and you'll see them changing the way that they're operating, she added. Long journey. The bill has had a lengthy and contentious journey to becoming law, beginning 6 years ago when the government committed to the idea of improving internet safety. When they say internet safety, they mean internet control. The idea that inspired the bill was relatively simple, scribbled down in the back of a sandwich packet by two experts, Professor Lorna Woods of the University of Essex and William Perrin of the charitable foundation Carnegie UK. They're names of the two people that are going to be responsible for reducing human rights and internet freedom. Professor Woods told the BBC that finally seeing it pass was slightly unreal. "I think when you're waiting for anything for a long time, there's always that sense of, oh, it's here," she said. But the complexity of the act does cause her concerns that big tech companies will challenge parts of it in court. "I think maybe the complexity leads itself to that sort of challenge, and that could delay the full coming into force of the regime." I love it when they use the quiet words that they're not supposed to use. Regime. Yeah, I completely agree with you. Driving the bill have been the stories of those who have suffered losses and harm, which they attribute to content posted on social media. Online safety campaigner Ian Russell has told the BBC the test of the bill will be whether it prevents the kinds of images his daughter Molly saw before she took her own life, after viewing suicide and self-harm content online on sites such as Instagram and Pinterest. Where were you? Why weren't you monitoring what your child was looking at on the internet? You were the father. Why weren't you? I mean, it's absolutely tragic and horrendous and horrible, but why were you not looking at what your child was looking at? Why weren't you? That's something that you're supposed to take an active interest in. I mean, especially when the child has access to the internet where they can look at all kinds of fucking images. Basically, my children's internet usage is going to be extremely restricted. Extremely restricted. Oh, that's awful. That's it. I don't care. Tough shit. Tough shit. Basically, I don't want my kids seeing porn or murder or gore or any of those type of things on the internet, because children aren't supposed to see that. Okay, they can absolutely use the internet, however, there will be restrictions placed on what they can and cannot view. I don't see a problem with that. But the fact is, it's a case of you couldn't do it, so now you've brought in a law that's going to restrict internet freedom and the free flow of information because the government wants to control how people vote. That's how it comes down to, controlling how people vote. Getting people to support things that are against their own best interests. And if you control all the information where everyone gets their information from, then you absolutely can do that. Facebook did studies and tests on it. That's how they managed to figure out that they could actually steer public opinion just by changing a few pieces of code. That's the entire point behind this. Imran Ahmed of the Centre of Countering Digital Hate welcomed the passage of the bill, saying too much tragedy has already befallen people in this country because of the tech companies' moral failures. Countering digital hate, there's already laws against that. In fact, we've got some of the worst laws in Europe for it, especially in Scotland. Scotland has the worst laws for it in the whole of the UK. What are you talking about? There was already laws for that. There was already laws in place. Again, because the countering digital hate was not the reason. There are other reasons. But digital rights campaigners, the Open Rights Group, said the bill posed a huge threat to freedom of expression, with tech companies expected to decide what is and isn't legal and then censor content before it's even published. So basically, remember how because we left the European Union, we didn't get Article 13? This is our Article 13. We got it anyway. We got it. What was the point in even leaving? What was the point in even leaving if the government's just going to pass these horrible fucking laws anyway? Which nobody wanted. Nobody wanted these laws. They did surveys and it was like 80, 90% in some places. Nobody wanted the online harms bill because the amazing thing about the general population is they are starting to see... I'm starting to think this isn't about keeping people safe. Yes, you're completely correct. Nobody wanted it, but the way democracy works, or pseudo-democracy as I call it, is... the general person in the street has no say whatsoever in what types of laws get passed. The government will go, on the website, submit your... None of that gets considered. That's all show. That's just a big sham. That's just to make people think that they had their say. That stuff doesn't even get read. It doesn't get looked at in Parliament. The people that vote on the legislation, they don't even read those. That's just a little outlet so people can blow off steam to think, I did my part. I filled in the web form with my angry rant that no one's ever going to read and the law's going to pass anyway. Lawyer Graham Smith, author of a book on internet law, said that the bill had well-meaning aims, but in the end it contained much that was problematic. If the road to hell is paved with good intentions, this is a motorway, he told the BBC. He said that it was a deeply misconceived piece of legislation and the threat it posed to legitimate speech was likely to be exposed in the courts. No, that was the intention. This is the thing is, everyone's like, oh, dear Mr. Government, you appear to have accidentally put in this bit that could be very bad. It wasn't accidentally. It's on purpose, right? Stop doing this. Oh, well, the courts will do... No, if people go to court for like, saying, like, dumb shit on the internet, or someone said the N-word in the COD lobby, ooh, I never know. No, that's the law working as intended. They mean to do this. They mean to do it. Oh, BitChute got completely shut down. Oh, what an accident. It wasn't an accident. That was the intent. Right? Stop trying to think that the government, like, they're stupid in a lot of areas, but when it comes to legislation, they're very clever. They're very clever when it comes to legislation. And popular messaging services such as WhatsApp and Signal have threatened to refuse to comply with the powers in the bill that could force them to examine the contents of encrypted messages for child abuse material. However, following statements made... Sorry, I'm still a bit sick. However, following statements made the government... you've written that completely wrong. About these powers in the Lords, Meredith Whittaker, the president of Signal, says that they were more optimistic than we were when we began engaging with the UK government. But she added that it was imperative that campaigners press for a public commitment that the unchecked and unprecedented power in the bill to undermine private communications would not be used. It will be used. That was the intent. Oh yeah, these encrypted messages, we can't like spy on them. We like to spy on people and see what they're up to, so if you could, like, stop that, that'd be great. They want ready encryption so they can spy on people. That's why. There's basically people that haven't done anything criminal, so the police can... I mean, if the government want to spy on, like, terrorists and stuff like that, they can get a warrant and they can spy on it. That's absolutely no problem. Takes them seconds, especially with the type of terrorist acts that we got. Thank you, George Bush. But basically, they can do that no problem. It's the fact is they can't get a warrant for legal speech, but there's people that they want to keep an eye on because they're political dissidents or they're associated with some certain political group or political party. You know, they don't have the 250,000 quid lying around to just pay a license to Pegasus and get them to fucking do it for them. So they kind of want these companies to get rid of encryption so that they can just do it themselves for free. After royal assent, the baton will pass to the communications regulator, Ofcom, who will be largely responsible for enforcing the bill. It will draw up codes of conduct that will provide guidance on how to comply with the new rules. But one of the top things is there's going to be extreme over-moderation of everything. Those who fail can face large fines of up to £18 million, or in some cases, executives could face imprisonment. Dame Melanie Dawes, chief executive of Ofcom, called the bill's passage through Parliament a major milestone in the mission to create a safer life online for children and adults in the UK. Very soon after the bill receives royal assent, we'll consult on the first set of standards that we'll expect tech firms to meet in tackling illegal online harms, including child sexual exploitation, fraud, and terrorism, she added. There is a lot staked on the success of the bill, not only the safety of children and adults, but also the UK's ambition as a tech hub and possibly, if things go wrong, continued access to popular online services. Continued access to popular online services, a lot of which are going to get shut down. See all the ones I listed earlier? They're going to be the first to go. They're going to, especially Rumble, I think, is going to be specifically targeted because they decided to not demonetize Russell Brand. For Professor Woods, the bill will be a success if social media companies and others are more responsive to user concerns. And maybe we won't have to see quite so much of the stuff we don't want to see in the first place, but I don't think we should expect perfection. Life's not perfect, she said. Exactly. Life is not perfect. However, that's not going to stop you from fucking trampling all over everyone's fucking human rights on the internet in order to make it so. Isn't that right, darling? Right, basically, again, another piece of absolutely horrendous draconian legislation coming out of the UK government from boomers who have absolutely no idea how the internet works, because basically if you have a VPN, that's it, you're fine. Just get a VPN and that's it. You completely circumvented this entire law. If people want to carry on abusing children and stuff like that, they'll just get a VPN. That's it. So basically, they're not going to get caught. All the other stuff you said you were going to enforce earlier, like, terrorists aren't using Facebook to communicate with each other, right? There's other methods that they can use in order to keep their data transfer encrypted and private, right? There's loads of methods that you can use. And you know this, right? You're completely fully aware of this. You know that these people aren't going to get caught because of this bill. You might catch the odd stupid one, but the actual main people, the ones that you really want to get, you're not going to get them, right? And you know that. You're fully aware of that. Because we all know the real reason for this law. It was to control the flow of information online so that you can influence the outcome of elections. Like, I love how we know that you know that we know, but you continue to keep lying.